You're watching Fugitive Red Eye, and welcome to another video game review. Today I'll be reviewing the Sega Genesis game, Alien Soldier. Now, Alien Soldier is a game I streamed all the way back on Chisu's birthday, which was a couple months back, and I meant to review it the next day, much like I did with the Splatterhouse 2 review. And similarly to that, I took my sweet-ass time, and it has been a lot longer than a day. So this was one of the games that Chisu suggested me to play for his birthday stream that I did, because I'm such a nice guy doing stuff like that for him. And as you may have guessed, because it's a Genesis game, I was playing it on my modded Xbox on an emulator, just like with Splatterhouse 2. And similarly with Splatterhouse 2, it had a cheat on it, a Game Shark cheat sort of thing, or a ROM hack cheat, rather. However, unlike Splatterhouse 2, it wasn't an optional one where you could enable cheats or disable them. This one, it was always enabled, and I didn't realize that until I started the game. What this ROM hack did is it made me invincible, making the game a complete and total fucking cakewalk, where it's actually usually a really fucking hard game. Alien Soldier is sort of a side-scrolling run-and-gun game where you're running and shooting enemies, similar to Contra and things like that. Obviously, it has its own differences. As with the title, you do play as an alien soldier, which is a character with a bird head. There's a long text scroll at the beginning of the game that tells you the story. I've forgotten most of it, so I'm kind of looking at the Wikipedia article to refresh my mind of the plot. But the A-humans of A-Earth are the good guys in this story, and they've been genetically engineered to be super smart and super strong. They also have a parasitic coexistence with animals and machinery, and a terrorist organization known as the Scarlet Rose, or known as Scarlet, rather. See, I'm reading the Wikipedia article, and it says Scarlet Rose up. I'm just kind of skimming it, so I'm going to do very little editing on this, I'm going to be honest. But you play as a guy called Epsilon, and you have to fight this group Scarlet, who's led by a guy named G-Tiger. Or, he's not the leader, I guess he's just one of the bosses, one of the enemies. And you fight him. It's pretty cool, it's very, like, cyberpunky with the game. It's very loose on the plot, because it's a Genesis game, but it does give you the whole plot at the beginning, filled with all sorts of grammatical errors. But the game has, you can do all sorts of different attacks. You can actually kind of decide which kind of attacks you want to have, which was kind of unique. And then you can bind each one to a different button. And there's a little wheel that you select within-game after you've chosen your ones to decide which kind of attack you want to do as your attack. There's also a really powerful attack called Phoenix Dash, which you can only do once per life bar because it drains a lot of your health, and you have to charge it up. However, due to the fact that I was invincible for the game, I was able to do Phoenix Rush pretty much the entire game with one exception. When I got poisoned, I was no longer able to infinitely do that, so to fight the final boss, I had to parry. Because the final boss can only be hurt by parry and Phoenix Dash. He's the only character in the game like this. But the parry attack, you can just spam, so overall I was able to get through it pretty quickly and pretty easily. I did the entire game in one sitting, which very rarely happens on stream. This is one of only a couple occasions. But when I was looking up stuff for this game, I initially discovered something kind of interesting about it, because it was released in Japan and Europe, physically, but it wasn't released physically in the US. It was released through something called the Sega Channel, which was a service I was completely unfamiliar with. In the US, the Sega Channel was a cable channel where you plugged your Genesis into a cable provider, and you would rent games digitally on there. You would rent them through the cable service onto your console, which I thought was kind of interesting to look into, so it was something I had never heard of, so I thought it was worth bringing up. The Sega Channel was done through Time Warner, and you'd plug your coaxial in and you would pay to play. It's interesting, because it was like gaming service. It was like, it's kind of like Game Pass, but for Sega Genesis, and way older than that. Sega Channel ended on July 31st, 1998, so it wasn't around after that, but it was around for 4 years nearly, because it actually launched in December of 1994, so it was nearly 4 years it was out. In Japan, the game actually got re-released on PS2 as part of a Sega Genesis compilation pack, but I think that was Japan only. And it was later included on the Genesis Mini. So yeah, there's some interesting facts I thought I'd throw into this review, just because they all seem very interesting to me, so I thought I'd bring it up. The game is also available on Steam, and was also released on Nintendo Switch at one point, so there you go. As far as the game goes, it's basically just starts out fairly normal with a bunch of enemies, but then, like, the last, half of the game becomes just boss battle after boss battle after boss battle. And again, it was really easy for me, because I was playing a ROM-hacked version that made it ridiculously easy by making me invincible. However, I can tell you this, had I been playing it normally, there's no way in hell I would have beat it, especially not that soon, because it's fucking hard as balls. You get hit, a lot. There are a lot of enemies. It just throws shit at you. It's all over the place. It's almost like a bullet hell, but, it's just a bunch of enemies on the screen at once. But your character has a jetpack, and you can kind of stop midair and shoot that way. And all the different attacks and stuff you can do is pretty cool, and different enemies are weak to different kinds of attacks. I was also able to use fire underwater, which Chisu said you're not actually able to do in the regular game, so clearly something to do with the ROM hack as well. But overall, the game was really fun. It was easy for me, but again, if I was playing it legit, it would have been really difficult, and there's no way in hell I would have finished it, especially not in one stream. I might have eventually finished it using save states, but I didn't need to worry about that because, again, I beat it all in one sitting because I was fucking invincible. There was still a couple bosses I struggled with because they were kind of hard to hit due to their attack patterns, like that one that jumps out of the water. And then there was that spider that took me a while to defeat. It wasn't hard, it was just tedious with a couple of them. But overall, it was really cool. I really liked the aesthetic and the atmosphere. And very nostalgic, even though I've never played it. Like, it gave me some nostalgic vibes of the future. And I'll also say, for a Sega Genesis game, it has really good graphics. It looks beautiful. It was a great game, and I would absolutely recommend it. It was lots of fun, but again, probably very difficult if you're playing it legit. And again, it was released on a cable service that you plugged into your Genesis, which I didn't even know existed until I played this game and looked it up. So, there you go. That's all I really have to say about Alien Soldier. Thank you, Chisu, for recommending it to me. It was a fun game, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good one. Toodles!
Enough with the sauce!